It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Hope everyone had a good Labor Day weekend. For me, it's one of the important holidays for us to remember the history of what it took to build a prosperous working class, the history of what it took to fight for the 8-hour day, for weekends, vacations, days off when you, might be able to spend a little time with the family. Back when, that seemed to happen. Now, sadly, a lot of people I spoke to didn't get the holiday off. Seems like we're breaking that. Thank you, Amazon. This is where I'm hoping people eventually wake up after these kind of moments and say things need to change. Now, our president on Labor Day was in his home state of Delaware, meeting with union members, actually brought sandwiches and called one guy's mom just to say, hey, how you doing? I got to tell you, I love Joe Biden in the White House in these moments. And I give him credit for a lot of things at this point. We've got a lot more work to do. But I give him credit. Here's somebody who knows, he knows how to work a line, man. I give him credit for that. On Tuesday, he reached out in New York, saying, look, the incredible danger, the incredible damage that was done after Hurricane Ida, according to him, and I don't disagree, shows the nation and the world that we're in peril. Climate change is here. It's real. It's happening right before our very eyes. He said, quote, climate change poses an existential threat to our lives, our economy, and the threat is here. He says it's not going to get any better. The question is, can it get worse? Yeah, it can get a lot worse, and a lot more costly. The White House the same day put out an urgent request for funding of $14 billion to help rebuild the areas that were affected in New York and New Jersey. Got to get that in quick because October 1st, there's potentially a government shutdown going to happen because they won't raise the debt ceiling. I don't see that happening. But it's one of those things where you go, we got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen, a lot of things that have to get done. Got to have money to do that, which is why I'm glad to see Speaker Pelosi, in a nice way, responding to Joe Manchin's strategic pause on the $3.5 trillion investment in our human infrastructure. I give her credit, man. Good jab in there, saying, look, she goes, I don't agree. Obviously, don't agree that we should pause this. We need to move forward. She said the numbers, $3.5 trillion. We can't go above that, she said. And when asked, what's the likelihood of, going below, she goes, why? Why would we? And this is one of those things where you go, why? Right now, we need the investment, and we need it desperately. We need desperately to rebuild our manufacturing base. And, today was one of those moments for me where, again, you're in this, we're in our daily lives and we're treading along and we're trying to make ends meet. And, I look at, my situation, my Jeep Patriot blew up. It's done. So I have to go find something to replace that. And, as someone who will only buy an American-made, union-made vehicle, the numbers are getting much smaller. When I bought my Patriot back in 2011, it was built in Illinois by UAW members. It was a good deal. It was a good car. It's lasted me 10 years. 200,000 miles. It owes me nothing. I have run that thing till it blew up. And we are still considering dropping a motor in it to give to my son, but that's down the road. Need something reliable, need something now. So I went and I spent the day looking around, going, okay, it's been 10 years since I've looked for a vehicle for myself. It's been 10 years, and I'm going, well, let's find out what's out there. There's an opportunity to, see some new things, maybe, find something that I really like. So I figured I like the Patriot. Let's see if they still make that. Well, they canceled that. They replaced that with the Renegade. The Renegade that's made in Mexico now. And so I looked, okay, Compass, because the Compass is supposed to be the Jeep Compass next step up. That also moved to Mexico along with the Patriot so that they could move the Cherokee from Toledo to Belvedere, Illinois, where my Patriot and, of course, the Compass were manufactured. So you go, well, what happened? What's going on in Toledo? Well, Toledo, they still make the Wrangler, and the Wrangler Unlimited, and this Jeep Gladiator, this hybrid, half truck, half Jeep, kind of weird. My son hates it, but even still, way over my head, because the Wranglers were topping at around $75,000, and I'm going, the things that I did find, the costs were just wow. You go, does no one in the U.S. make a working class vehicle anymore? The car before I bought the Jeep, because I loved my Jeep, loved it. Roll down windows, manual locks, stick shift. It was perfect, absolutely perfect for me, because I'm someone who believes that a car is to get to work and back. I'm very utilitarian in that way. Now my wife, on the other hand, lots of bells and whistles, heated cup holders, vibrating seats, you name it. If it flashes or dings or moves or does anything, gotta have it, and I'm okay with that. But for me, I just want something pretty simple. We evidently don't make that anymore. So I started looking around at other things. Like my wife had a Grand Caravan that I really liked. Thought of that. It's made in Canada. And I go, well, okay, I'm looking for American made. I'd like something here. I'd like to support the jobs here at home. Now my wife's Charger, perfect example. My wife's Charger, made in Canada. The only way I could justify buying the Charger was, they're UAW members. It is Canada. They're our friends. I get that. But an American muscle car like the Charger, the only way you can get it is in Canada? And you go, have we really depleted our manufacturing capacity here that much that the American muscle of yesteryear, we have to go to Canada to build? And look, I love my Canadian friends. I'm struggling. And, I went through all of these different cars. We went to the Fords, and I loved the Fords. The first one I looked at was the Bronco. Going, iconic. The Ford Bronco. They brought it back. Yes. Drove it. Loved it. Loved the Bronco. Check the VIN number. Made in Mexico. How is it? How is it the Bronco's made in Mexico? The only thing that was left was the EcoSport, which is the little compact SUV kind of thing, made in Brazil. Then there was the Escape, which is manufactured, put together here in the U.S., but with Chinese parts. And I'm going, am I losing something? Am I missing something? And if you want to look at the lower end of the scale, you wanted to get some of the the cheaper cars, the small subcompacts, the mid-size, the little ones and the little bit bigger ones. They're all made in Korea. And you go, what exactly happened to the American manufacturing mentality? And I know the first person's going to go, well, it's those UAW members who make too much money. Nonsense. Nonsense. They made these iconic cars for generations in UAW plants with higher wages than they make now. So this idea that, it's all this nonsense. It has to do everything to do with the profit margins, the bottom line. We were in the one Ford dealer, and they had a 1917 Model T. And it got me thinking about Henry Ford and the assembly line and how we want to make cars affordable enough so that the working class can buy them. We want to make sure that they're affordable enough that workers can buy them. And I'm sorry, as much as I love the Jeep Wranglers, I am never paying $75,000 for a car. That ain't happening. And I don't know any working class person who can. But I'm looking at this Model T and I'm going, wow, look at this thing. They had a sticker on it. I think it was like $325 for the car. back in 1917. So I got on the phone, I quick checked the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics inflation calculator, and go, today that car costs $7,500. You go, how is it they were able to manufacture that while paying double the wage of everybody else and still be? And you go back to, and look, Henry Ford was no poor guy. How much money is being bled off into the hands of the shareholders and the wealth class? It's crazy in our healthcare system. So, as I'm looking at this stuff, I'm going, how is it we're going to be able to keep these things going? Now, understand, some of the people are saying, well, we can't get any inventory in. And understand, there's no basic anything. As I said at the beginning, I'm someone who, if you give me crank windows and manual locks, I'm happy as can be. If it's got 2 speeds for the air conditioning, I'm okay. That's just me, and I know sounds very curmudgeon-y, but look, I'm a utilitarian. That's my mindset. I want to go back and forth. That's it. I want it reliable. I want it in decent shape. But you start talking to some of these folks. Well, they blame it on, it's the chips. We can't get inventory. And you go, well, how many of these basic vehicles do you ever get? Well, none, because they're not making any. When I bought my F-150, roll down windows, manual lock, stick shift, bench seat, extremely affordable. Truck lasted me 17 years. Well worth it. I went and looked at trucks today, $45,000, $50,000, and I'm going, I love them. They're incredible, but it's kind of much. And you go, why is it? And this comes back to the priorities of our manufacturing and how trade in this country has completely screwed things up. The idea that we allowed the auto industry in the 60s to start moving production overseas and then bringing things back under the argument we're domestic production, domestic consumption, which I am in favor of. Back in the 90s when they were saying GM was going to build a $2 billion manufacturing plant in China, I said, those cars are coming back here because nobody there can afford them. And if they can't afford them here, it's going to kill everything here. So it's never going to happen. They're just going to keep dumping and, of course, profiting. This is about profit more than anything. So as they're moving production overseas and more jobs are being lost and we have this spiraling down. Look, had wages kept up with car inflation, you could afford one. And I feel for the people who don't have the ability. Look, I could probably buy one if I wanted to. And as I told my wife, I don't want to buy a $50,000 car. I can, but I don't want to. And the more I look at this, the more I go, our trade deals have screwed this up because the auto industry is not interested in making, small and mid-sized cars for working people. They want to cash in on the big stuff. And that's always been the knock. And it's always where I think we've had problems. And it's because we don't encourage manufacturing in this country. We talk about it. We need to bring back manufacturing. We continually are losing jobs. I came across this little stat because, everyone looks at Reagan and says, no, Reagan was the greatest president, increased jobs. No, manufacturing jobs he continually lost because of his high dollar policy that allowed imports to come in at a much cheaper rate and didn't bother putting tariffs on them. And then, of course, his birthing of the idea of NAFTA and George H.W. Bush's, pushing all the way through and Clinton signing it put us in a spot where now you're talking NAFTA, you're talking PNTR, permanent normal trade relations with China, and we're just getting killed. And then, of course, Obama threw in Korea and in chorus and all of that. And what's happened is we've allowed the bottom of the auto industry to be taken over by the parts of the company that are just out there seeking the most profit, the most exploitable labor, the most exploitable working conditions. And they're not even that cheap either. So like I said, I'm in this weird spot because I'm going to buy something at some point. And it's getting a lot harder. getting a lot harder to find union-made, American-made anything. And this is where I give Joe Biden credit. He's talking about how do we rebuild our manufacturing? How do we have a 40-year reset? And this is all of my complaining aside. What I want is I want that 40-year reset. I want things to return to some bit of normalcy for working class people, to where they're not only tied into, well, I have to buy this Korean thing or this car from China or from wherever. That I, the working person, can buy that vehicle that my hands touched. I can buy the car that I helped build, help put parts into, help deliver, help do all the things that Henry Ford said, you know what, if we're going to make a product, I want to make sure my people can buy them. Now, that doesn't make him some, great humanitarian. He wasn't. Makes him a good businessman. Makes him someone who goes, yeah, I should want my people buying their products. I should want people signing up and saying, yes, we most certainly want to buy what we produce. But during the Reagan years, and I came across this little statistic that just grabbed me. Employment increased by 2.6%, from 104.5 million to 107.2 million jobs across the economy. But manufacturing fell from 20 million down to 16.8 million, a 15.9% drop. You're talking massive drop in manufacturing capacity. And we saw a big drop during the Clinton era, and a massive drop during the W. Bush years, and a huge drop under Trump. The guy who, and this is the weird part, the guy who told us he was going to reinvigorate manufacturing, he was going to rebuild those towns like Lordstown, Ohio, where the Lordstown plant was. He was going to be the guy who was going to bring those jobs back. Didn't say how, didn't say, what the plan was. Biden's got a plan. We need massive infrastructure spending. We need to rebuild our not just our economy, but our country, and rebuild the opportunities that people had. When I was a kid, man, if you got one of those jobs at the UAW plants, you had a good life and built a good product. I'd like to see that again. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back. Stick around.
Nothing more American than workers standing up, and the union gives a voice to win. On the Rick Smith Show.